Everybody here? Are there any apologies? Don't have any.
Just the mayor's got them.
The mayor.
Just an apology at 10, in about 2 minutes to 10, I need to step out for a Zoom meeting.
Okay.
So you can move it.
I'll move that apology. Do I have a second for that? Thank you, Councillor Douglas. All those in favour, please say aye. And it's carried. Any leave of absence? Nope. Are there any conflict of items on the agenda? Conflict of interest, I should say. No, they're being done. Public forum. That's anybody here. Okay. Any extraordinary urgent items that have been tabled? There's been nothing. Okay, we'll go straight to the confirmation of the meetings that was held on the 5th of August. That are true and correct. Record of that meeting. I'll move that. Do I have a second for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Scott. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, carried. Thank you for that. The first report is 7.1 on page 19 of the agenda. It's the roading engineering.
I'll just be ready for that.
Just moved in. Good timing. Okay, do you want to come up to the table? Or you might just have to. We're good. Yep, you're on.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and councillors. First off here, we've got the ops report. Purpose of this report is to update the committee on major roading maintenance contracts. I also want to add that we'll give an update on the repair of McLean Road under flood damage repairs later on. In general, maintenance spend across the 3 contracts is $1.7 million for the end of July. And RFS's trends have returned to normal traditional levels, which means that we are finally back to business as usual post floods and COVID-19, which is good to see. Emergency flood repairs have totaled $1.59 million to date, and we're forecasting the total spend to be approximately $2 million. Remaining flood repairs, Te Tuatapere Slip, McLean Road, and Ellis Road rehabilitation. We'll come back to McLean Road. Activity performance on the gravelled road sections. Have had excellent start on Metling. Grading is just the budget quantity for the month. Pavement rehabilitation. We have a separate report to present later on this year's programs. And Fort Rose Otara seal widening tenders have closed last week, so we're getting ready to complete the evaluation and award that contract. Resurfacing contracts have been evaluated. The recommendation is going to be a separate report later on in the meeting. Pavement marking commenced to start again later this month, possibly early next month. Bridges, the 2 design and build bridges progress well with 8 completed to date and 11 bridges to complete, including the provisional sites. That has increased since we've written this report. A picture there of Waituna Lagoon, the precast abutments in place there. Lake Manawai Road Bridge over the canals progressing well and programmed to finish mid-September, so hopefully we're still on program for that. McLean Road, we've commenced. This was significantly damaged during the February events and delayed. The design was delayed through the COVID-19 period, and we completed a design and work commenced last week. During the early stages of the work, we've opened up the pipe and fully cleared the pipe. We've noticed that there is quite significant damage to the pipe, and the inverts and sections of it are missing. The original design allowed to utilise this pipe for normal flows, with the flood flows to go through a separate designed flow path to go around the culvert. We calculated the peak flows for 50-year event to be 20 cubic metres per second and 25 cubic metres per second for a 100-year return period. Our target design flow would not basically realistically be able to be contained in a pipe. So we went for the alternative flow path, which is going to take majority of the flood flows. The alternative flow path allowed for access to the culvert for upsizing and maintenance and replacement at a later date, because we assumed that it had significant remaining life until it was fully cleared out. As of Monday, we've stopped the job yesterday to step back and have a re-evaluation of the site and revisit all options and put another paper back to council to discuss those options further for your consideration.
So,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just further to Rob's comment, one of the reasons for that is just because of the capacity of the current pipe and therefore the condition sort of established when contractors have established on site means that we'll need to up the expenditure by replacing that pipe, and then there's, depending on the size of the replacement or continuing with the secondary flow path as Rob sort of alluded to, all of those carry different risks, and that's really part of why we want to come back to council, is just to lay out those risks with whatever option. One will have a cost implication if you want to try and mitigate as much risk as possible, or take a lower cost option in essence around another major event. The capacity won't be available for that culvert, but then that in itself creates other risks. So that's really the scenario where we're at now, which we will look to present back to the council.
Okay, so yeah, until you've done that analysis and provide that report, we won't know until next time. Councillor Douglas, you've got a question.
Well, just a little clarification. The Plain Road is off Blackmore Road up in Castle. And yeah, I took a drive up there the other day. I've got some photos here if the committee wants to see them. There has been extensive logging done in that area, and there probably was partly the possibility that some of the slash did impede the flow of the water and led to issues there. So, firstly, Hartley, have we had discussions with the landowner in relation to the slash that did come down, and how we managed that?
So, yes, we have had discussions with the landowner, and that includes the actual removal and the impacts it can have. And even with the slash, just the gravel volumes that are up there, is this understanding, perhaps just going back to the diameter of the culvert, the risks associated with all of those aspects, not just the slash aspect coming down, but also the volume of gravel, the risk of it blocking, those are part of the risks I was sort of alluded to. But yeah, just back to the response directly associated with the slash, we have written to the landowner and seek confirmation around when that would all be removed to mitigate that risk, and we've received a response back.
He's underway this week to clear the slash from the immediate flow path above the area.
That's encouraging, and we'll follow up to see where that work is.
Yeah, correct.
Just following up on that, I would assume that your final report that will be presented to us will include those aspects that Councillor Douglas has raised to ensure that that's covered off and how that's managed in the future.
Yep.
Thank you. Councillor Scott, you have a question?
Jim, is this still coming under the emergency works, or is this sort of a new work program now?
Which no, it's still part of that emergency works. It's just it's sort of when we originally assessed the culvert, from what we could see, it looked in reasonable condition but once we established and cleared it all out properly, this is when we sort of come up with a secondary problem. So it's just making sure we make the right decision now, because we don't want to say put a like for like back, but then we have another event, and then got to establish back in 12 months' time or 24 months. So just making sure everybody's aware of the risks and the costs that go with trying to mitigate some of those risks.
So if we had a significant rain event next week, kind of thing, is it sort of in a good shape as it can be to handle it?
We've opened a channel up,
Yeah.
so the site will be able to take everything that's been thrown at it this year again. I'll just give a wee bit more context around the flow characteristics of that site are significantly different to the next culvert down. How we've replaced that and upsized that culvert further down to the 1.8. The McLean Road site, we've got more challenges with gradient, which increases the water's velocity. Like further down, we're talking about the same flows. That culvert will not cope with the 50 or 100 year flows. But when the water raises, it'll go over the road for a short period of time, go back down again. It doesn't have the velocity issues that we're facing at McLean Road. Once that water gets going, it arrives a lot faster and a lot stronger flow, a lot more quantity, and then it goes down faster. So yeah, just the flow characteristics of that site are much different to what we get further down. So
Thank you. That's good. Any further questions? Councillor Keast?
Chair, the risks that are identified on page 23 is one on coal, 600 million culverts, section in page 25 is the Gideon Armco culverts. Are they similar observations, or is that a problem that's coming
the six.
across the
Through you, Mr. Chairman. The 600 mil culverts is we are currently inspecting all of the culverts that we've got on our network in RAM above 600 and seeing if we can locate any more. We've got over 20,000 culverts on the network, so to start the process of stock taking, we've started with the larger diameter ones where there is greater risk. For example, if a 300 mil culvert was to collapse versus the risk of a 600 mil plus one collapsing, that's why that diameter was nominated.
So the Onco culverts, the large diameter is your corrugated culverts, and you'll see quite some of them are around sort of 3 meters in diameter. We actually class them as part of our bridging network, so they get inspected as part of that bridging. So the 600 and the corrugated, the larger ones, we sort of deal to them differently. But
Thank
they are
you.
risks.
Sorry?
Sorry, in terms of the larger diameter Onco culverts, they are a risk in terms of, and hence why we do the inspections as part of our bridging network.
Thank you. Councillor Duffy, you have a question?
Yes, I noticed on page 27, the FOBO Alliance report, the identified risks and strategies are actually from other areas. So, are there risks and strategies from the FOBO area that are not there, or what?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that's a good point. This is a new template which has actually been generated off the Waimea Alliance contract, so yeah, it's not supposed to be there.
Not sure. So we've got no risks.
Oh.
out of that area.
Not this month, no. I'll get that fixed for next meeting.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, we can take a couple of them.
I might ask Mr. Russell if you've got any comments that you'd like to make.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, just a comment in relation to the discussion regarding McLean Road. I think it's worthwhile noting this is an example of an issue that we're likely to see a lot more of in coming years. We've got an extensive number of culverts in our network. You may recall from our assumptions informing our upcoming LTP, climate change is a significant assumption. Increasing rainfall intensity is likely to have a reasonably significant impact on events and volumes of water making its way through our network, and replacing like for like assets is unlikely to be suitable and appropriate. So moving forward, when useful lives are up for replacement or when damage is sustained in our network, the way in which we replace the assets is going to require a bit more science and a closer look at ensuring that we build the right resilience and capacity into our networks moving forward. So this is a really good example of that.
Thank you for that. There being no further questions, would somebody like to move that we receive this report? Thank you, Councillor Keith. Do I have a second for that? Councillor Fraser, all those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you very much. Thank you for presentation there. Somebody like to ask Bill Witham to come in and speak to the Downer Water and Wastewater Maintenance Contract, which is on page 31 of your agenda. Good morning. Good to see you. Yes.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, before we get underway, I might take the opportunity to introduce Grant Isaacs, who's recently joined the Water and Waste team as the Three Waters Operations Manager. So welcome, Grant. First time in front of council. Yeah, good to have you here.
Yeah, welcome aboard. Good. Okay, Phil.
Okay. So, morning, Mr. Chairman and the committee. Yeah, it's been an eventful month, but it's this report was already finalised before that. So, take this one as read. There's a couple of health and safety incidents of concern, but no one really injured, just another vehicle incident where a car coming past clipped the door that had been left open. We've worked through that. Yeah, the vacuum truck was it was a contractor, and the axle failure on the trailer was, yeah, a bit of a. The trailer had a warrant, had been inspected, but one of the stub axles broke off. So just one of those things. It was a bit odd.
Mm-hmm.
Wear and tear, I think is what they looked at. The other thing that happened this month was one of the operators passed away, which was quite a bit of a blow to the staff, Downer staff.
Mm.
So yeah, we've just been working through that this month. It hasn't affected the cover. Luckily, they were fully staffed going into that situation, which was good. But yeah, it's definitely been hard on the boys losing someone.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah. No worries. So, are there any questions arising? Or?
Okay, I'll open up the floor for any questions from anybody. I note there's a new safety procedure for coupling on trailers, and I see a new design there. Looks very impressive.
Yeah, it's just something.
You've had a few issues here that trailers been coming off the total.
Not so much on our contract, but just generally in the Downers, the wider Downer business. They're just trialling this wee thing. They've dreamed it up. Some other part of the business dreamed it up.
Looks good.
Yeah.
The other issue that I've got is
apparently it was the South Roads innovation that's spreading through the industry, so that's good to see.
The photos of the block pumps at Riverton, that is quite significant, and it just seems to be nothing else but plastic in there. What sort of education program, or how are we looking into this so that we can save our infrastructure? So what's happening there?
So we regularly put out notices in the regular magazine that goes out about this. We used to do it more regularly when Te Anau was having a lot of trouble. We got around the Te Anau issue by just putting a huge grinder on the front of the main pumps. That's just been very successful. So, yeah, rather than educating people to stop doing it, we've engineered a solution. But Riverton, because there's 9 pump stations, I don't think we'd be looking at engineering a solution there.
Because it is avoidable.
Yeah, it's a global issue.
Yeah.
Councils much bigger than us are
For sure.
throwing huge amounts of resource at the problem, including lobbying government
Yeah.
and industry to stop marketing wet wipes and things like this.
Yeah, that's good. Councillor Duffy.
I mean, just further on that, so I mean, it looks like painted trap, but it is just wet wipes in a bulk.
Yeah, there's a few things that is. So wet wipes is by far the most common one because people are starting to use them a lot more. But there's also, you can buy these big rolls of Chuck's cloth.
All
And
right.
people use them for cleaning and then flush them. And they're just, you'd be hard pressed to design something that would block a pump quicker if you try. Like just terrible stuff. So we've educated all the hotels through Te Anau to just stop doing it.
Yeah.
It's
So in terms of Riverton's not feasible to put your grinder in, so. it's a
well,
case
sorry,
of it-
it could be. It could be the only solution. So Te Anau, we tried everything. Yeah, it is tricky to get the message out there because you're fighting against marketing from the people selling these products who are saying that they've been tested and they've proven that they're flushable, and yeah, they'll flush all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they end up.
A consumer has done the prove that they won't dissolve, so it's tough, but they're still being sold.
As you say, if the industry is lobbying central government, I think that would be
Yeah.
very important that we get the message up there.
Even that's just part of the equation. So
Yeah,
people
it's
still
part
flushing.
of the jigsaw
We
puzzle, for
find
sure.
towels and things,
Yeah.
crazy stuff ends up in the systems.
So councils need to join that.
Join that lobbying group. Yeah.
So Water New Zealand on our behalf is definitely lobbying
Okay.
government for that.
Even the
Councillor?
name Chucks makes it sound like you can just chuck it away. Like it's,
Yeah.
it's a shocking piece of marketing.
Councillor Owen.
I think maybe there's an opportunity for us to look at putting something in the local Western
Yes.
Star newspaper, which is well read. The museum, along with all the others on the main street, were affected with this latest blockage.
Yep.
So everybody knows that something went wrong, but nobody's registered what it was that happened. So I think it's a good time to refresh with that information.
So,
Especially a photo like that
Yeah.
speaks volumes. That's what needs to be out there.
So just to be clear, this isn't a one-off. The boys clear blockages in almost every pump station in the district.
Acknowledged. Yeah.
It's unlucky that a blockage would result in disruption like normally it is. It's
Councillor
caught in
Scott.
time.
So I assume that when that stuff does actually pass through the pumps, it actually causes problems further down the line as well, with it not breaking down. Is there a further issue?
Not normally, no. So if it gets, if it makes it through the pump, it's either macerated or cleared. And the pumps, the pipes tend to get bigger as you go. So if it makes it through a pump, it'll be fine.
Like
Good.
those Chucks costs
Yeah.
and those sorts of things long term.
Yeah, long term. Yeah. Even the ones that are cellulose based, they're very slow to break down in the pond.
Got a few there.
Yeah, but they don't pass through the pond into the environment. They'll sit there until the pond's cleaned out.
Thank you. Councillor Rutten Claw.
How often is this occurring that utilities called out to a situation like this?
A situation, well, they don't, as I say, it's actually routine.
So it's really
So they wouldn't normally be called out, especially to clear a pump. The pumps are monitored by a SCADA system. It'll throw an alarm if the pump's not pumping it enough for the size of it, and they'll just go out and clear the blockage. But Te Anau, for instance, which was the one that came to a head during summer they'd clear one of the big pumps, so 300 kilogram pump, crane to the surface to clear it every day. And it was about one full-time equivalent staff member just clearing the Te Anau pumps.
I suppose the volume of tourists and residents, I suppose.
It's the volume, it's the nature of the things tourists were trying to dispose of was bizarre, and the just the big hotels. So towels, sheets, things you wouldn't expect from residential loadings, you know.
Okay. Councillor Douglas.
Yeah, a very good report and excellent use of visual images.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's resonated with all of us around the table, and we need to get these images out into the public and get them aware and educated around the pitfalls that they are causing to our network. So I think that's excellent. You know, it's a multi-pronged approach. You know, lobbying government, making our own resident ratepayers aware. So just getting back to the tic tacs, what does a grinder cost, and what's the cost benefit of using a grinder?
So we've only got one in service currently, which is this. It's a fairly big one we put into Te Anau and into Mokanui Street. It was about 80k, 80 to 90k. So we were quite. And the other thing was, there was a risk we'd put it in and find that you had to keep spending 10 grand on it to sharpen the blades and things. We haven't had to sharpen the blades yet. So it was extremely successful, probably paid for itself in 6 months.
Right.
So you can put smaller versions of that in. Te Anau was particularly well suited to installing it. There was space in the pump station for it. It'd be a case-by-case basis and probably reasonably involved to add it onto a small pump station and power it. You've got to have enough power left over at that site to run it.
All right, thank you for that. I suppose there's an opportunity to give a signal to the media that are here that this is a very good photograph that they could use for a media release. So thanks, thank you, Bill. I mean, it's a very good report, and as Councillor Douglas has really identified, that photos, all those photos certainly give a very visual impression of just what on earth is going on. So thank you for that. So I'm happy to move that we receive this report. Thank you, Councillor Harper, for seconding that, and all those in favour, please say aye. Carried, thank you. We'll go to 7.3, Service and Asset Program Report on page 49 of the agenda. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, councillors. So just to talk to a bit of an overview of the report again this month. So you'll notice that we're still transitioning through from the 1920 reporting period through to 2021. So at the moment, finance are going through and settling all the final accounts from last year so that that can then be accounted for in the 2021 budget, and the carry forward process is well underway. I think it's pretty much signed off at your end, Matt. So we will be in a position for next month to begin reporting on the 2021. As I reported previously, there's around about $8 million of carry forward, give or take, coming into the 2021 year budget. So another piece of work is that the 2021 works program has now been fully input into CAMS, along with the draft of the 10-year long-term plan. So it's giving us a really good visual of what is now being inputted into CAMS, which is what the intended use of it was. In regards to some key works that's currently underway, 42 Don Street is actually now complete. Staff have, or 95% of the staff have now moved into 42 Don Street. It's been really well received, and we're now concentrating on 20 Don Street. It's well advanced as well, and it's on track to be completed in late October, with a pending shift in early November for the staff before works will start on 4th Street Tower. The wastewater team will talk to you in regards to the Te Anau wastewater project, but both those packages of work are progressing pretty rapidly now with the SDI field and MEF plant. And I know there's been a number of HAZOP meetings in the last few weeks. The COVID-19 pandemic, we're continuing to work through that. There hasn't been too much issues during this level 2. No works at this stage have really slowed or been affected by it. So, which is good. So hopefully we don't move into any other alert levels. Just looking at some of the projects, we've had 8 bridges completed between the northern and southern packages to date. A number of those are still to have the seal go across them once the weather warms. Ethel Railway project is complete. The last piece of that was just the signboards to be installed. Woodlands Curb and Channel project, Te Water Main is now complete, and the Aparima Drive footpath I've just had confirmation this morning that one is complete as well. You will have seen consultation go out on Facebook in regards to Monkey Island. So it's now progressing forward, which is great. So just for reference, the toilets are all complete. They're ready to actually go in. It'll just be the final consultation now on the scope of that work. What else do we have? Te Anau water main replacement on Lakefront Drive is currently out for pricing, so that will begin prior to Christmas. We've already had consultation with the community board there in regards to making sure that site is cleaned up over the Christmas period. Which is, look, that makes really good sense that is effectively out of the way during that busy period. And the wastewater pond fencing is now started on sites as well. So we've just worked through the last parts of that around some of the existing fences and whose land they were on, but we've now got that all resolved and that's well underway. And obviously council approved the Winton Library project, so that will be going out to design services in the coming weeks. That's about everything from a summary point of view. Sorry, Matt. Through you, Mr. Chairman, I've just had a little bit of context to the carry forward for the year. The approximate $7 to $8 million that Nick was referring to is largely made up in the majority of the Te Anau wastewater project as a result of the delayed consenting and some of the decision making around that particular project. Monkey Island and the archaeological implications of that project, and Over Island as a result of the decision making around that particular project as well. The total spend for the year was just on around $29 million. So it was a really successful year for the team, and I think that's worth noting.
Excellent. Yeah. Good report, Nick. Very much appreciated. I've got a couple of questions, and one is with the completed projects. The 42 Don Street, we come on budget there, come on target?
Yes, it has. Yes, well under budget. Yep, on 42. So which is good.
Okay.
Well below.
Oh, just sorry, well below. On or below? well below budget on 42. Okay.
Yeah,
it's good to hear.
Yeah, just finalising the accounts on that now.
And some of these other projects have been completed, as you say. You're working on those numbers, and they all sort of come on budget. Confident that we're on target.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, there's been a big push through the team in regards to budgets being set up and making sure that they're correct when they're going to council, and making sure that we're hitting them. It's been a big focus, especially for the project delivery team around budget setups.
Yeah, I'll pass on our acknowledgement.
Thank you.
It's good to
definitely do that.
Good to have that. So significant improvement. So it's appreciated. It's very good.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just for reference, we actually have within the project team a qualified QS as one of our team members. So he's been brought on board. He's fitted in really well, and we're using him for a lot of upskilling of our other project managers in that team around cost control on projects.
So the level of expertise and knowledge is sort of increasing, and that's certainly starting to reflect in the successful of these projects, both in completion but also the finances as well. So that's really good to hear. Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll open up for any questions, comments. Okay, there being no questions or comments, so
Makes it easy.
somebody like to move that we receive this report. Thank you, councillor Menzies. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, councillor Owen. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excellent. So what are we doing? Moving to public excluded.
Excluded, and we've got quite a long one today.
Yes, we
We've got
have.
6 items,
Good looking.
and
Obviously,